not absolute flexibility, but a degree of perhaps localization. Even in the UK, we have rural territories and we have centre of town territories, and there's slight operational variances which are perfectly allowable under the system as long as the customer experience is not affected adversely by that. So we allow a degree of flexibility within the system in order to do that. We also have, we encourage great ideas from franchisees within the system, and I think a later question will come on to that in terms of how we enable that. From a complaint handling perspective as well, we also have an additional support and escalation process if a customer at the end of the day, and that's the missing part of the franchise or franchising system, the customer. The customer at the end of the day must not be frustrated with the brand. Nowadays we have an incredible awareness via online media of tell-telling. We had a problem a few years ago that the biggest problem was we were doing 12,000 cleans a week, and one client would go on to Trustpilot, it's called, .co.uk, and a cleaner had let a client down and suddenly made to clean a lot of rubbish on the internet. How do you address that? And the only way to address that is to have an escalations process and to have an ongoing forum for addressing problems and grievances that potentially may go wrong at some time in the future that cannot be handled by the franchisee. So this is about education and engagement with the franchisees, enabling them to have localization freedom to an extent, and to enable the brand at all times to be looked after and protected.
That's great, thanks Mike. And I think that one of the key points you make there is this whole area of being prepared to listen to franchisees. I mean, if a franchisor doesn't want to listen to a franchisee, then there's no spirit of partnership. So having a capacity to be able to listen to their grievances, whether they're right or wrong, and then having a process of how you deal with them, it builds in a real sense of partnership as on this journey together, I think, which is really important. So thank you for that. Jean, you've been in doing franchising for quite some time, looking at your profile. So how do you in your own spa business, if you can firstly tell us a little bit about your business, and then secondly tell us how you foster this spirit of partnership amongst your franchisees, would be very helpful.
Yes, thank you. So just a brief description of what we do. I'm the founder of a company called Cinq Monde, which means 5 worlds. It also comes from Panchakarma, so it has something to do with India. And we are the European market leader for spa franchising, that is to say, and especially in 5-star and palaces hospitality, where we build large spas so we have franchises in about 15 countries. Actually, for me, one thing which is very important is that the franchisor has a lot of duties to the franchisees, and including research and development, because the franchisee doesn't have time to invent new models, breaking ground initiatives. So in the think global and act local, there is some truth to that. So for example, in our own business, we provide turnkey solutions for 5-star hospitalities. Just for example, a project that we are conducting at the moment, we are developing a huge spa in Dubai, in the Kempinski Hotel. There are about 100 hotels worldwide. And it's a huge spa. It's 30,000 square feet, it's 30 treatment rooms, and 15 villas of 50,000 square feet with in each villa a spa. So altogether we are building 17 spas. They don't have anything to care about the architecture. We have our own integrated architecture system, and they provide everything to the very detail of the, you know, of the water systems, of the massaging beds, or whatever. Then we give them, of course, a lot of guidelines about, because their role will start from a commercial point, you know, where the real, once everything is built, we also care for the recruitment of teams, so we recruit the teams. So apart from CapEx and to have people on their payroll, we do more or less everything. But then there is a lot of inventivity in the commercial development of the business unit. And here comes the role of the franchisee, where he will have a lot of ideas about PR, inviting VIPs, inauguration, whatsoever. So the act local is sometimes as important as the think global. So this is how really we kind of balance the roles of one and another. Then there are a lot of team building because for example we have a team of 10 trainers to train to the massage protocols and everything. We have a team of 5 business developers, and we have twice a year an international seminar with, you know, the spa directors, the hotel general managers, and we come around the table and we invent, you know, the new best practices of the next years. So this constant, you know, cooperation is really what was explained before. This gives the sense of ownership for the franchisee, which is absolutely key to keeping the we phase.
That's right. Thanks, John. I mean, I think that's great. So you sort of allow the franchisee to have measured input at the appropriate level without having to take the responsibilities that you take. So that, I'm sure, flattens out the curve a little bit so they really feel like they are genuinely partners. But thank you for that. The second question I've got is this, is that some of the most successful brands encourage innovation from their franchisees. And it seems like a bit of an oxymoron, but you come into a franchise group and you're looking to your franchisees to innovate, because that can be really dangerous. If they're innovating on ways that are part of your core operating system, that's going to be a potential challenge. But you've got brands like McDonald's where a lot of the innovation of their product came out of franchisees. Big Mac, Fillet de Fish, Ronald McDonald, were all recommendations from franchisees that bubble up from the bottom up. And so I'm interested to ask the panel, I'll start with you, say, with regards to, do you have a system in place, or do you have a sense where you encourage that? Because if it's not encouraged, I think that the sense of partnership feels like it's all top down and not bottom up.
Absolutely agree with your point. You know, if I give you a little bit of background about the company which I represent and how it has started, there's a story of a wonderful couple. Here, you know, they're middle-aged and they were in the business of building material, and when the prosperity came and they wanted to move in Dubai from a small apartment to a big villa. So when you move from one small apartment to a big villa, or a bit of a size, and then want to build a house from scratch, then you have a lot of hassle in terms of buying the product. You go to one shop to buy only the ceramic tile, then you go to another shop to buy the bathroom fitting, then you go to somewhere else to buy the furniture. So it's a lot of hassle, find a contractor, getting your job done and all that stuff. So at that time, the Danube Homes born. So where we thought that, you know, under one roof you can make the whole solution together. So it is a hassle-free. It is something where you can just go and buy your product in one place, where you have an interior designer, you can design for your house and you can find whatever required for your house, and one-stop solution you can get it. But this solution, what you get in one day, it is not fixed for throughout your life. Or for each and every market has their own different requirement and different workout. And so when we did our expansion, we thought that, it's a fairly new brand. In the last 5 years, we opened 23 stores, large format, more than 50,000 square feet at the size of the store. So then we thought that if you want to grow by ourselves, then it will take around 40 to 50 years by the time we can have a global presence. So we decided to focus on GCC on ourselves, and outside GCC we wanted to go through the franchisee route. So when you go through the franchisee route, and a franchisee is the person who is putting his money and investing on that, and we are giving him all the technical know-how and the support system. So that guy will not continue with you in a long period of time, till the time he feels the ownership and he feels the involvement in the business. And end of the day, in our business, whether we do the business by ourselves or we do it through the franchisee, we feel the best people who give us the idea, or the best people who are the drive our business, is the frontline people, our sales people. Because they are the face of the organization who interact with the customer. In my job profile, I head the franchisee business, but besides that, my main job is I'm the head of the buying. So like whatever the buying I do, I can do from my gut feel. I can go to the show, I can go there. But the main person who is taking a decision is the consumer. So we need to understand the fact that we are here in the business, the money we are making, that is the criteria. But your major criteria, you are giving a solution, your end user, the customer. So unless and until we understand what customer want and how the customer need makes difference, that is something which makes the difference in the overall business operation. So therefore it is our sales people who are interacting with the customer. They give us the feedback whether the blue is working more or the Fuchsia pink is working more, or he need a high comfort sofa or he need a low comfort sofa. Whether they need a recliner which is coming with the automated or a recliner which is coming in manual. So these are the different things which are this guy, the salesman, he cuts. We have a small thing known as SAPD. We call it Sales Advisor Pocket Diary. So every day you need to write 5 points, what customers are asking and what is good about us and what is something where is a point of improvement. So they note it down and they send it back to our head office, which is reviewed by the buying team and the management team, and they take the corrective action. So the same system, we put it on a franchise. Like we have 2 stores in Tanzania and Dar es Salaam, which we opened in the last quarter of 2016, and last store we opened last month. If you will see the whole consumer psyche and the whole buying pattern of Tanzania, 60-70% would be the same what Danube Homes does in Dubai. But 20 to 30% we need to localize. By sitting in Dubai or having our own requirements fixed, you cannot grow the business, you cannot run it. So it has to be the information, the feedback has to come from the downtown. Second thing what we do most important is that every month we do something known as KPI, Key Persons Idea Meeting. So where we call the 4 or 5, every month we choose from each store one person who collate all the information, he come to our board and he do the presentation. These are the 4 things or 5 things which we think has to be improved. So answering your question and summarize the whole discussion, I feel this is one of the very, very important points to make the whole business successful, and where the franchisee is a key part to give the feedback and give the information to the franchisor how we can improve. As Mr. Jin was sharing with, we make our own, for example, we make your own standing operating procedures, or you make the manual. But the manual, if you will see 50 or 60% of the manual which is being made, the 70% of the content are the copy paste. You take out the 10 of the franchising manual of the different industry, you will find the same things. Manual is there, we need the guideline, but it has to be, we need to understand what are the difficulties that are being faced by the franchising on day-to-day operation and how we can find a solution towards it. So it has to be, have a system where we take the information and we improve on a daily basis.
So the coalface, people at the coalface, having a feedback loop, so it gets people who are sitting driving desks, not talking to consumers, is really important, isn't it, to actually follow the flows up, because it doesn't happen naturally. And people sitting behind desks tend to think they know everything, but most of the time the consumers are changing and they're voting with their feet, so thank you for that. Mike, similar sort of thing within your business and in the maids and the cleaning business, that are innovation that you're actually encouraging from the grassroots level?
Yes, absolutely. I think that in any successful business, and franchises are not exempt from this, many brains are better than one. and everybody can learn from the good ideas of people at all levels, and even feedback from customers as well. Some of our innovations have come from clients as well. I would suggest that a franchisor creates an environment in the first instance which is one of ongoing learning and business improvement. Within Clean, we hold 4 BI meetings at different parts of the country on an annual basis, and this enables franchisees to get in front of the franchisor 4 times a year, 5 if you include the annual conference, where key specific problem areas within the franchise, agenda driven by franchisees, are openly discussed and improvements made. A franchisor should be entirely receptive to ongoing improvements with specific criteria. One, that the brand is improved by such an exercise. Similarly, we have a theory within Made to Clean, and it's called sweep to left. And by that, if you imagine this pen, where to the extreme left of the pen represents low cost and high value, and to the right of the pen represents high cost and low value, poor value, then as a business owner, every franchisee wants to drive or sweep to the left. And their ideas should also want to keep costs to a minimum whilst improving quality, with not necessarily increasing costs and diminishing costs. One of the most successful innovations that we came out with several years ago, the biggest problem facing the franchise was time theft. And that wasn't physical theft of something from within a property by a cleaner, but a cleaner being paid for 3 hours work and disappearing after 2 hours, with the client coming back at the end of the period and finding the cleaner gone, and of course she's taken the money. So here's the problem: how can you, without increasing costs, engage with a client to the level to reduce that type of problem? And from our business improvement meeting, we came out with this idea. So imagine this as a concept. If I dialed Tony's number from my mobile and I called it and it rang twice, then I hung up, you would acknowledge that it wouldn't cost me a penny, but Tony would know that I've actually called him. So take that concept now and imagine, with the client's permission, a cleaner would pick up the client's telephone landline and dial a check-in number. This number is never answered. It's a VoIP system, and it engages directly with the franchisee's database. And once the number is called, the telephone number flashes on the system. That checks a cleaner into the premises. At the end of the job, at the end of the 3 hours or 4 hours or 8 hours, whatever it is that the cleaner is engaged, with the client's permission again, she calls the check-in, check-out number, and again, it's cost the client nothing because the phone has never been answered. Once we implemented this, what happened? Well, cleaners certainly stopped stealing time, and clients understood immediately the value of this, and they recommended our services to friends. And that's just one simple innovation which comes out of the brains of franchisees. We've also had other suggestions as well, some of which we've adopted within the operations manual, but it has to be from a sweep to left perspective. Does it add value to the customer experience? Is it not going to cost us a great deal and affect and impact adversely the margins at the end of the day? And will the customer be delighted at the end of the day? All successful franchises adopt a degree of innovative solutioning to increase and enhance either the profit line or the client experience. Hopefully, areas of engagement that do both.
Great, thanks Mike. Some fair bit of innovation there that you're putting into the business, which is really improves the whole operating system, which is what this is about as well. So how do we innovate to actually develop stronger partnerships, but how do we innovate to actually improve our service to our customer base, which is ultimately what we're trying to do. So thank you for that. Gemma, I'll shift focus a little bit and ask you, I know you said before that you had, from your own partners, you encourage them to innovate on what's required in the local market and to give input on how best to attract people, because they're the people who are the experts in that market. I wanted to shift a little bit from the innovation question and just ask, in the area of transparency with your franchise partners, because at the end of the day, the whole point around having this sense of partnership is around having transparency and fairness and innovation and a sense that you're doing the journey together. So how do you foster that in your own business, the sense of being open and transparent with your partners and by default expecting that in return?
Actually, for us, transparency is probably easier than a McDonald's franchise where you have thousands of franchises. We have a few dozens of franchisees, which are big clients. There are hotels that do 50 to 100 million euros turnover. So they are highly educated. The general managers are at a high level, so we can communicate very, in a transparent way. What is interesting is that concerning innovation, sometimes with two trains of thoughts, different trains of thoughts, us, the franchisor, and the franchisees come up with similar ideas. So, and it's not coordinated from the beginning. I give you a concrete example. The spa, massages, cosmetic products is shifting at the moment to a more global health, what we call wellness and health retreat. That's to say, people not come only in a spa to get a massage and to buy a massaging oil or whatever, but they want to have a program, for example, in a prestigious hotel, where they are guided into nutrition, enhancement of sleep, yoga and meditation. So this is the land of yoga. So now yoga is a worldwide phenomenon. In the States, you've got 40 million people practicing yoga. That is to say, 40 million is like more than 12 or 14% of the population, which is mind-boggling. So we introduce all these aspects in what we call a spa and wellness retreat. So this is a research and development. For example, in India, we've been working for 15 years with an Ayurvedic doctor who has a PhD in the impact of massage on the psychosomatic disorders. So it's, cutting-edge research. And when we go to see in Mauritius Island, our client, it's a hotel called Long Beach on the East Coast, they say, do you have a more global wellness program? When we are in Dubai, the wife of the owner, who is a Russian oligarch, says, I practice yoga, I pay attention to my nutrition. Do you have a more global program? And when we are in Beau Rivage Palace, which is one of the most beautiful palaces in Switzerland, the general manager, he's into detox programs herself, and she challenges even us to implement. So it's very interesting to see that, with the evolution of the lifestyles, that educated, people with an inquisitive mind come up with more or less the same ideas as we develop. Of course, they don't know the how, they don't have, the 5, 6 doctors we're working with for 15 years. They don't have all this background, but they precede our development in some respects.
It's interesting, isn't it? You've got quite different franchise partners, in that many of them probably have a much larger size organisation than probably what you have yourself. So you're dealing with major hotels and so forth. So the need for partnership and the sense of working together to actually create a product that's actually going to serve both your needs, if it's in yours and their customers, is key, isn't it? So having that transparency of that relationship is going to be really important. We're going to run out a little bit of time, so I think that what I'd like to do is open the floor. If anyone has any specific questions that they'd like to ask the panel, and we can take just get a microphone. Can you just say your name and who your questions are addressed to?
I am Deepak, and my question is addressed to Mr. White and to Danube. I think so. It is Mr. White. It is with the last session you had a small slide about the basically the contract obligation, how you when you are having a franchisee and a franchisor relationship. So one factor I think we have not covered in the entire from last yesterday and today is that there are two aspects when we are talking about a franchisee and a franchisor. One is that if it is a service industry or it is a product. When it is a product, the dependency of the franchisor, the franchisee on the franchisor is very high. Because say for example, if it is an Apple, if I am the franchisee, for example, I cannot manufacture an Apple item. So I need to, so there is a very strong dependency. I cannot go tomorrow and start my own, manufacturing unit for Apple. Whereas when it is, say, service, for example, with Danube, one thing, which you told that if somebody wants to measure a curtain or some, it's a very customized thing. So the dependency of your company on the franchisee is also high because he has to ensure the service quality is also there. Ultimately, the customer is belonging to that person. So the relationship is there. So, how do you, for example, at some point, the working relationship is not going very strong. And there is some level of fear that what tomorrow if this guy leaves, because in that relationship he has understood my business very well. He knows the tricks of the business, he knows the entire background. Tomorrow he can just exit and he has got all the infrastructure ready and he can be a competitor to me. So how do you safeguard this particular phenomenon? Because in service industry I've seen, today there is, they've started and there's a very good relationship. Tomorrow it becomes your competitor. So how do you safeguard this? And how can it be done legally and how it can be done on, what are the measures we should take?
Yeah, it's a great question. And yeah, a lot of my presentation was primarily around product because that's been most of my life. But I take your point as well. The service organisation is critical as well. And if you don't have a direct impact on whether you can change the product or whatever, then that becomes somewhat of an issue. I think that the best antidote to that is to develop a brand that has operational excellence that ensures that it drives customer traffic to your business. And if you're not delivering on that, then there's a pretty good chance that the people who have your intellectual property will find ways of actually potentially doing it even better than yourself. So that's one. The second thing is the area of innovation in your own business. At the end of the day, the franchisee's got to feel like they're consistently getting value in the relationship with you as the franchisor. The moment they get to anywhere in the bottom of that chart up there, they're starting to look for reasons as to why they want to leave. And if it's easy for them to leave and they're going to take some of the intellectual property, then that is a serious concern and happens quite regularly. So for me, it's a case of how do you create a culture within your own organisation, how do you create a operational excellence that retains people much more, because that's going to be the best antidote that I think that you can do in a franchise organisation. To give people, not only franchisees but individual team members, a compelling reason to stay. And that requires developing pathways for franchisees, because there's a point where people either get frustrated or they're good franchisees and they get to the point where they feel like they've reached the end of their journey and they want to grow further and you have no other opportunities for them. So I think operational excellence, creating pathways for growth so that you can facilitate people into those and having good conflict resolution when they inevitably go into these areas of the dip. But so do you want to give some comments and feedback on that as well?
But very nice question. What point were you saying about the curtains or any product line, be it a furniture or bathroom fittings or tiles? All of our product involves the service. When you go to the customer side, we deliver the product. So there are three aspects to it. Aspect number one, how we do is whether it is taking a measurement or stitching or installation or after sales service. All of these three things we bring one of our main technician for each LOB, each line of the business, who comes to the franchising place and give an in-depth training to the people, so that we ensure that service standard is being taken care of. Even we take some people back home to Dubai and where we do them the on-the-job training so that they are able to get well equipped. For me, every product comes with a service attached to it, whether service when you do during the sale or you do the service after the sale. But now the question comes tomorrow, the franchisee get to know all the technical know-how or he understand all the details of it, so how you retain them. Whether he knows the service, whether he knows the product, I feel this is applicable for each and every product category. Whatever, like today we discussed about all the three aspects, if you have involved the franchisee in terms of all the decision-making process, if you have the proper transparency with the franchisee, then there are the chances that the chances of retaining it is much more higher. And even if it goes, it is not only about the service. Today, for example, if I'll give an example, like if I'm buying one furniture, say one sofa, it all depends upon your business model, how you make the business model. What we did it is, in our business model, it doesn't work through the cost of rather in the sales perspective. How it is, we don't say if I'm buying for $100, I don't put my margin upfront and sell to the franchisee. Rather, what we do is we charge our royalty when we sell the product. So if I'm buying for $100 from China, I'm invoicing to him $100 only. But when I am buying for 100 stores or 40 stores or 50 stores, where my quantity is much more higher. So, and I am giving him all the services, all the pricing that is required. If the franchisee is making money, he is happy with your service, and you support him all the aspects, then why the hell he will leave? And even if after that he will leave, then I think that we have find a wrong partner. And then whatever the legal contractors or legal aspect we have, we can take care of from there. To summarize, there are two aspects. If you take care of your people properly in terms of giving the training and holding hand, and as well as you support them in all the aspects, then you are being sorted out. Hope I have answered the question.
Thanks, Deepak.
Hello everybody, I'm Habib. I just wanted to ask a question about, you mentioned earlier, Mr. White, that what are the factors, what are the factors when the company, your company, in your previous lecture you said that it take over the parent company. So what was the factor, what made you to go and buy the parent company?
Good question. Under that arrangement, the master franchise, which was the company that actually bought it out, had a 10-year term. When they took the 10-year term, the parent company had about 150 stores, and obviously the company that took it had zero. They were just starting out. They went through the 10-year term and got to the end of the 10 years, and typically in master franchise agreements there's a renewal term. There's a renewal term and a renewal fee. So there's an option to renew. In that option to renew was a formula of what they had to pay, which was based on the number of outlets that you had established. So, in other words, he was penalised for his success. So he'd grown to about 200 outlets. So because he grew to 200 outlets, he was paying a big fee to actually renew. And when he looked at the parent company in that 10 years, they went from 150 stores, sold to a private equity, sold to someone else, and went from 150 down to 120. So they went negative 30. So he got to the point of saying, well, I've got to pay you a big renewal fee, but I'm at 200 stores, you've gone backwards to buy 30 stores. wanted to buy you, so it ended up it made a lot more sense to actually buy out the parent company, which then had the rights for the global rights for the expansion of the brand. So he already had the understanding that I know how to do this 200 times in my market. Now I'm going to buy the global rights and actually recoup a lot of my purchase and acquisition of that brand over by expanding the brand into another 48 countries, which is ultimately what ended up happening. So he originally bought the brand for, I think it was around about 23 million, and 12 years later sold it with 42 countries for about 180 million. So that gives you an idea of the opportunity that comes to expand and grow and create value in that company. Any other questions before we finish for lunch? No? That's good. Well, thank you very much for your attentiveness, and thank you, Jean, and to Mike and Masayo. Really insightful, really appreciated your input, and enjoy the rest of the sessions. Thank you. Hang around, I think they want to give you a small token of appreciation as well.
Yes. Oh, well, thank you. Can we have a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen? For sharing with us those valuable insights. Just before you leave, we have mementos. I'm going to request Mr. White, who is the session moderator, to present a memento from our end. First to Mr. Jean-Louis, and thank him for being here and sharing with us his expertise on the subject. Thank you once again. And Mr. White, I'm also going to request you to present a memento and thank Mr. Mike. Thank you very much. And one to Mr. Habib.